The blizzard hit 20 minutes outside of Aspen, turning the mountain road into a whiteout nightmare that made Willa Osborne grip the steering wheel until her knuckles went bone white. She should have left the resort earlier. She should have checked the weather more carefully. She should have done a lot of things differently. But hindsight meant nothing when visibility dropped to less than 3 feet, and the temperature gauge in her decade-old Honda was plummeting faster than her confidence. The heating system had been making weird noises for the past month, and now it seemed determined to give up entirely. Willa squinted through the windshield, barely able to make out the road. Snow pelted the glass faster than the wipers could clear it. Her phone had lost signal 10 minutes ago, which meant no GPS and no way to call for help. The smart thing would be to pull over and wait it out, but she had no idea where she was, and the thought of getting buried in a snowdrift terrified her more than pressing forward. Then she saw it. A dark shape through the white curtain of snow, too geometric to be natural. A building. Willa eased off the gas, letting the car crawl forward until she could make out the details. A cabin, relatively large with smoke curling from a stone chimney. Someone was home. Relief flooded through her as she pulled into what she hoped was a driveway, her tires crunching over snow that had to be at least 8 inches deep already. The engine made a horrible grinding sound when she turned it off, and Willa had a sinking feeling that the Honda would not be starting again anytime soon. She grabbed her purse and overnight bag from the passenger seat, pushed open the door, and immediately regretted every life choice that had led to this moment. The wind hit her like a physical force, stealing her breath and cutting through her jacket like it was made of tissue paper. She stumbled toward the cabin, her boots slipping on ice she could not see, snow already accumulating in her hair and on her eyelashes. The front door loomed before her, solid wood with wrought iron hardware that probably cost more than her car. Willa hammered on it with her fist, too cold to care about propriety or making a good first impression. It opened almost immediately. The man standing there was not what she expected. Tall, easily 6'2", with dark hair that looked like he had been running his hands through it, and sharp features that belonged on a movie screen rather than in a mountain cabin. He wore jeans and a thick flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms that suggested he did more than sit behind a desk all day. His eyes were an intense gray that seemed to take in everything about her in a single glance. "Please," Willa managed through chattering teeth. "My car died. I cannot drive in this. I just need to wait out the storm." He stepped aside without a word, gesturing her in. Warmth enveloped her the moment she crossed the threshold, and she nearly sobbed with relief. The interior of the cabin was beautiful, all exposed beams and stone and leather furniture, with a fire crackling in a massive fireplace that dominated one wall. Nothing about this place said rustic weekend getaway. Everything screamed expensive. "Thank you," she said, setting her bag down and trying to stop shaking. "I'm so sorry to intrude. I didn't know what else to do. You did the right thing." His voice matched his appearance, deep and commanding, the kind of voice people listen to. "That storm's not letting up anytime soon. You could have died out there." The blunt statement made her shiver for reasons that had nothing to do with the cold. "I'm Willa Osborne, Ian Fletcher." He moved to the fireplace, grabbing a heavy blanket from the back of a leather armchair. "You need to get out of those wet clothes before you get hypothermia." Willa looked down at herself. Her jeans were soaked to the knees, her jacket was covered in snow that was now melting into puddles on the hardwood floor, and she could not feel her toes. "I don't have much else with me. Just what is in my bag. There's a bedroom down that hall, second door on the left. Bathrooms attached. Take a hot shower, change into whatever dry clothes you have, and we will figure out the rest." Ian walked to a window and peered out at the storm. "We are probably going to be stuck here for a while." The way he said it, calm and matter-of-fact, should have been reassuring. Instead, it made her stomach do a weird flip. Stuck in a remote cabin with a complete stranger who looked like he could break her in half without trying. This was how horror movies started, but he had let her in from the storm. He had given her a blanket and directions to a hot shower. And something in his eyes, despite their intensity, did not seem threatening. Just tired. "Thank you," she said again, gathering her bag. "I really appreciate this." Ian just nodded, still looking out the window. The hot shower was everything Willa needed. She stood under the spray until feeling returned to her extremities, and her core temperature climbed back to something resembling normal. The bathroom was as impressive as the rest of the cabin, all natural stone and modern fixtures, with fluffy towels that probably cost more than her entire linen closet at home. She changed into the only other clothes she had, yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, thick socks she had packed for lounging. Her hair hung in damp waves down her back, and without any makeup, she looked about 16 instead of 26. Not that it mattered. This was about survival, not impressing anyone. When she emerged from the bedroom, she found Ian in the kitchen, which was open to the main living area. He had changed, too, into different jeans and a gray Henley that did absolutely nothing to hide his build. He was stirring something in a pot on the stove, and the smell made her stomach growl audibly. "Soup," he said without turning around. "Nothing fancy, but it will warm you up. It smells amazing." Willa walked to the kitchen island, settling onto one of the high-backed stools. "Is this your place?" "One of them." Ian pulled 2 bowls from a cabinet. "I come here when I need to think, or when I need to not be somewhere else." That was cryptic, but Willa did not push. "Do you live in Colorado?" "New York usually, but I have places in a few cities." He ladled soup into the bowls, thick with vegetables and chunks of chicken. "What about you? What brings you to the mountains in the middle of winter?" "I work at the Snowridge Resort. I'm a wedding coordinator." Willa accepted the bowl he slid across the counter, wrapping her hands around the warm ceramic. "I was up there checking on a venue for a ceremony next month. The bride wants everything to be perfect, which means I have been making the drive up there twice a week for the past month." "That's a hell of a commute." "I live in Glenwood Springs, so it is not too bad, usually." She took a spoonful of soup and nearly moaned. "Oh my God, this is incredible. Where did you learn to cook?" "Necessity. Hotels get old after a while." Ian settled onto the stool across from her with his own bowl. "Plus, my mother insisted I know how to take care of myself. She said no son of hers was going to be helpless in a kitchen." Willa smiled. "Smart woman. The smartest." Something in his expression softened. "She passed away 3 years ago, but I still hear her voice every time I cook." "I'm sorry." Willa meant it. "That must have been hard." Ian shrugged, but she could see the grief underneath. "Life happens. You deal with it and move forward." They ate in comfortable silence for a while, the wind howling outside and rattling the windows. The storm showed no signs of letting up. If anything, it seemed to be getting worse. "So what do you do when you're not hiding in mountain cabins?" Willa asked eventually. Ian's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "I run a company." "What kind of company?" "Manufacturing. We make industrial equipment, mostly for construction and mining operations." He said it like he was reciting a grocery list, but Willa caught the edge of something else in his tone. "Exhaustion, maybe, or frustration." "That sounds impressive. How big is the company?" "Big enough." Ian stood, collecting their empty bowls. "We operate in 43 countries, employ about 20,000 people, and our revenue last year was somewhere north of $8 billion. Willa nearly choked on the last of her water. $8 billion. give or take. He rinsed the bowls in the sink, his back to her. My father built the company from nothing. I inherited it when he died 5 years ago, been running it ever since. So you are a CEO. That's what it says on my business cards. Ian turned to face her, and there was something challenging in his gaze, like he was waiting for her reaction. Does that bother you? Why would it bother me? Willa frowned. I mean, it is surprising. You do not exactly scream corporate executive hiding out here in flannel and jeans. That's the point. He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. Out here, I am just a guy in a cabin. No board meetings, no shareholders demanding results, no employees depending on decisions I make before I have had my coffee, just peace and quiet. Until I showed up and ruined it. I did not say that. Ian's mouth quirked, not quite a smile but close. Besides, you did not have much choice. That storm would have killed you. Willa shivered despite the warmth of the cabin. Do you think my car is okay? Honestly, probably not. Even if the engine's fine, you are not driving anywhere until this storm passes and the roads get plowed. That could be days. Days. Willa pulled out her phone, which still showed no signal. I have to get back to work. I have appointments, meetings with vendors, a bride who is going to lose her mind if I do not return her calls. They will understand. This is a natural disaster, Willa. Nobody's going to blame you for being trapped in a blizzard. He was right, of course, but that did not stop the anxiety from clawing at her chest. She had worked so hard to build her reputation at the resort, to prove she was reliable and capable. Missing days of work, being unreachable, it felt like letting everyone down. Ian seemed to read her thoughts. Hey, breathe, it's going to be fine. You are safe, you are warm, and there's plenty of food. Everything else can wait. You do not know my boss. I've probably dealt with worse. He pushed off from the counter. Come on, let's find you something warmer to wear. You are still shivering. Willa followed him down a different hallway into what was clearly the master bedroom. It was huge, with a king-sized bed, another fireplace, and windows that probably offered an incredible view when they were not being pelted with snow. Ian went to a walk-in closet and emerged with a thick wool sweater. This will be too big, but it is warm. He handed it to her. There are extra blankets in the chest at the foot of the bed if you need them. Where am I sleeping? Willa asked, suddenly very aware that they were alone in his bedroom. The room you changed in earlier. It has its own bathroom and the bed's comfortable. Ian walked past her back toward the hallway. I will keep the fire going all night so the main room stays warm. If you need anything, just yell. I am a light sleeper. Thank you. Really? I do not know what I would have done if I had not found this place. Ian paused in the doorway, looking back at her. You would have figured something out. You seem like the type who does not give up easily. It was not until he was gone that Willa realized her heart was beating faster than it should. The evening passed quietly. Ian set up his laptop at the dining table and worked, his brow furrowed in concentration, while Willa curled up on the couch with a book she found on the shelf. She tried to read, but her eyes kept drifting to him, taking in the way his jaw clenched when he was thinking, the way his fingers flew over the keyboard with practiced ease. He was attractive in a way that felt almost unfair, the kind of man who probably had women throwing themselves at him wherever he went, not that it mattered. They were stuck together by circumstance, nothing more. Once the storm passed, they would go back to their separate lives and probably never see each other again. The thought bothered her more than it should. You want coffee? Ian asked suddenly, making her jump. Sure, thanks. He stood, stretching, and Willa tried not to stare at the way the Henley rode up, revealing a strip of toned abdomen. This was ridiculous. She was a professional adult, not a teenager with a crush. Ian returned with 2 mugs, handing her one before settling into the armchair across from the couch. "So tell me about these weddings you coordinate. That has to be interesting work." "It has its moments." Willa wrapped her hands around the mug, grateful for something to focus on besides him. "Some couples are amazing. They know what they want, they trust my judgment, and everything goes smoothly. Others are nightmares. Bridezillas who change their minds every 5 minutes, mothers-in-law who think they know better, guests who get drunk and start fights." "Which type is your current bride?" "Somewhere in the middle. She is sweet but anxious, which means she second-guesses everything. Her fiancé is great, though, really calm and supportive. I think they will be happy together." "Do you believe in that?" Ian asked. "Marriage, happy endings, all of it." Willa considered the question. "I think I believe that some people find it, not everyone, but enough to make it worth trying." "What about you?" "I think marriage is a contract, same as any other business deal. 2 people agreeing to terms and hoping they do not regret it later." His tone was bitter, and Willa wondered what had happened to make him so cynical. "That is the saddest thing I have ever heard." Ian's eyebrows rose. "Is it?" "Yes. Marriage should be about love, about choosing someone and deciding to build a life with them. It is not about contracts or terms. It is about partnership. And what happens when one person decides they do not want to be partners anymore? When they break the contract, then it hurts and you move on, but that does not mean the whole concept is flawed." Willa leaned forward. "Have you ever been in love, Ian?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee. "I thought I was. Turned out I was just convenient. She was more interested in my bank account than in me. I'm sorry, that is awful. It is what it is." Ian drained his mug and stood. "I should get back to work. Conference call with Tokyo in an hour." He retreated to the dining table, effectively ending the conversation, but Willa could not stop thinking about what he had said. Someone had hurt him badly enough to make him stop believing in love, and that made her heart ache in a way she did not fully understand. She went to bed eventually, exhausted from the day's events, but sleep did not come easily. The wind howled outside, and every creak of the cabin made her jump. She was used to her small apartment in Glenwood Springs, with its thin walls and the constant hum of traffic. This kind of silence, broken only by the storm, was unsettling. Around midnight, she gave up and padded into the main room, wrapped in one of the blankets from the chest. Ian was still awake, sitting in front of the fire with a glass of what looked like whiskey, staring into the flames. "Cannot sleep?" he asked without looking at her. "Too quiet?" Willa settled onto the couch. "That probably sounds crazy. Not really. I have trouble sleeping in the city, too much noise." He took a sip of whiskey. "Want some? It helps. I am not much of a whiskey drinker." "This is the good stuff. 30-year-old Scotch. If you are going to try it, might as well be this." Willa walked over and accepted the glass he offered, taking a cautious sip. It burned going down but left a pleasant warmth in its wake. "Wow. Okay, that is good." Ian's mouth quirked again, that almost smile that made her stomach flutter. "Told you." They sat together in companionable silence, passing the glass back and forth, watching the fire. It felt oddly intimate, like they were sharing something more than just whiskey and insomnia. Willa was intensely aware of how close he was, of the heat radiating from his body, of the way the firelight played across his features. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "You can ask. I might not answer. Why are you really here? You said you come here to think, but it feels like you are hiding from something." Ian was quiet for so long she thought he was not going to respond. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "There's a merger in the works. Another company, almost as big as ours, wants to combine operations. It would make us one of the largest manufacturers in the world, worth over $20 billion. That sounds like a good thing." It should be. But it means restructuring, layoffs, closing facilities. Thousands of people are going to lose their jobs, and I am the one who has to sign off on it. He looked at her, and the exhaustion in his eyes was palpable. My father built this company to create jobs, to give people opportunities, and I am about to destroy that. You are doing what you have to do to keep the company viable, Willa said gently. That is not the same as destroying it. Tell that to the people who will not have a paycheck next year. Have you tried to find alternatives, ways to minimize the layoffs? I have been trying for 6 months. But the numbers do not lie. Either we merge and restructure, or we start losing market share until we cannot compete anymore. Then everyone loses their jobs. Ian took the glass back, draining the last of the scotch. So I came here to clear my head and figure out how to live with the decision I have to make. Willa did not know what to say. She had never had to make choices like that, choices that affected thousands of lives. Her biggest work stress was whether the florist could deliver the right flowers on time. For what it is worth, she said finally, you seem like someone who cares. That has to count for something. Does it? Ian stood, setting the glass on the mantel. I should try to sleep. You should too. He walked away before she could respond, leaving her alone with the fire and the storm and the weight of his words. The next morning brought no relief. The storm had intensified overnight, dumping what had to be several feet of snow and showing no signs of stopping. Willa woke to the smell of coffee and bacon, which felt surreal given the circumstances. Ian was in the kitchen again, moving with the efficiency of someone who had done this 1,000 times. He looked better than he had the night before, more rested, though there were still shadows under his eyes. Morning, he said, glancing at her. Hope you like bacon. It is about the extent of my breakfast skills. I love bacon. Willa climbed onto a stool at the island. How long have you been awake? A few hours. Had to deal with some emails, check the weather report. He slid a plate across to her, loaded with bacon, eggs, and toast. We are stuck for at least another day, probably 2. The roads are impassable and they are not sending plows out until the storm passes. Willa's heart sank. 2 more days, at least. Could be longer depending on how fast they can clear the mountain roads. Ian poured her a cup of coffee. I know it is not ideal, but we will manage. I am going to get fired. No, you are not. If your boss has a problem with an act of God keeping you from work, that is their problem, not yours. He sat down across from her with his own plate. Besides, I will vouch for you if you need it. Pretty sure a CEO's word carries some weight. Despite everything, Willa smiled. You are probably right. They ate breakfast, then Ian showed her around the cabin properly. It was bigger than she had realized, with 4 bedrooms, a study, a wine cellar, and a game room complete with a pool table and vintage arcade machines. The place had clearly cost a fortune, and yet it did not feel ostentatious, just comfortable and well-made. My father designed this place, Ian explained as they walked through. He grew up poor, so when he finally had money, he wanted to create spaces that felt like home, not showpieces, but places where you could actually relax. He sounds like he was a good man. He was, tough as nails but fair. He taught me everything I know about business. Ian paused by a window in the study, looking out at the white landscape. I wish he was here to tell me what to do about this merger. What do you think he would say? Ian was quiet for a moment. He would say to trust my gut. To do what is right for the company and the people who depend on it, even if it is hard. Then maybe that is what you should do. He looked at her, something shifting in his expression. You make it sound simple. I did not say it was simple. I said it was what you should do. Willa moved to stand beside him. You are obviously smart and capable, or you would not be running a multi-billion-dollar company. Trust yourself. You sound like my mother. I will take that as a compliment. This time, Ian actually smiled. Not the half-quirk she had seen before, but a real, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. He looked younger, lighter, like a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. "Come on," he said. "I will teach you how to play pool, badly if my teaching skills are anything like my father's." He was right. His teaching skills were terrible, but it did not matter because Willa could not stop laughing at his increasingly ridiculous attempts to explain physics and angles. They spent the afternoon in the game room, playing pool and then moving on to the arcade machines, competing to see who could get the highest score on Pac-Man. "This is rigged," Ian declared after his third attempt. "Nobody can get past level 12. I just got past level 15. "You are cheating." "I am not cheating, you just suck at video games." Willa grinned at him. "Admit it." "I will admit nothing." But he was smiling too, and something in the air between them had shifted. The easy camaraderie of the afternoon had given way to something else, something charged with possibility. They made dinner together, Ian chopping vegetables while Willa handled the pasta. They moved around the kitchen like they had done this 100 times, anticipating each other's movements, working in sync. It felt natural in a way that probably should have been alarming but was not. "You are good at this," Ian said as they sat down to eat. "Cooking." "No, being here. Making a bad situation feel less terrible." He met her eyes across the table. "I have been coming to this cabin for 3 years, and I have never brought anyone here. It is always just me and the silence. Why did you let me in?" "Because you looked half frozen and terrified, and I am not a monster." Ian paused, "but also because something in my gut said I should, that you were not a threat." "I am definitely not a threat. I am 5'4" and I cry at commercials. That does not make you weak. That makes you human." He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The touch was electric, sending sparks up her arm. "I forgot what that felt like, being human instead of just a title and a bank balance." Willa turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his. "You are more than that, Ian. Even if you cannot see it right now." They stayed like that for a long moment, hands clasped, eyes locked. The storm raged outside, but inside the cabin, everything felt still and perfect and terrifying. Ian pulled away first, clearing his throat. "We should clean up." The moment broke, but the awareness remained. They washed dishes side by side, their shoulders brushing, every accidental touch feeling deliberate. Willa's heart was racing, and she could not quite catch her breath. This was crazy. She barely knew this man. They were trapped together by circumstance, and once the storm passed, they would go back to their separate lives. But God, she did not want to. That night they sat by the fire again, this time with a bottle of wine Ian pulled from the cellar. It was older than Willa, probably worth more than her monthly rent, and it tasted like heaven. "Tell me about your family," Ian said, settling into the armchair while she curled up on the couch. "Do you have siblings?" "2 brothers, both older. One's a firefighter in Denver, the other's a teacher in Boulder. My parents retired to Arizona last year. They hated the cold." Willa smiled. "We are not fancy, but we are close. Sunday dinners, holiday traditions, the whole thing." "That sounds nice. What about you? Any siblings?" "A sister. Younger by 4 years. She is a doctor in Boston, specializes in pediatric cardiology." There was obvious pride in his voice. "She is brilliant. Could have worked for the company, but she wanted to do something that actually mattered. Running a company that employs 20,000 people matters. Not the same way saving kids' lives does." Ian swirled the wine in his glass. "She is the good one. I am just the one who was born first and got stuck with the family business. You do not strike me as someone who does anything he does not want to do." "That is because you do not know me very well." "Then tell me, help me know you." Willa leaned forward. What do you want, Ian? If you could do anything, be anyone, what would it be? He was quiet for a long time, staring into the fire. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft. I would build things. Actually build them with my hands. Furniture, maybe, or houses. Something real and tangible that I could point to and say, I made that. So why do not you? Because I have responsibilities. 20,000 employees, shareholders, a legacy to uphold. I cannot just walk away because I want to play carpenter. But you are miserable. I am not miserable. But the protest was weak, and they both knew it. Ian, you are hiding in a cabin in the middle of nowhere, agonizing over a business decision that is tearing you apart. That is not what happiness looks like. What do you want me to say, Willa? That I made a mistake? That I should have told my father no when he asked me to take over? He was dying. It was his last wish. I could not refuse. The pain in his voice broke her heart. She set down her wine glass and moved to kneel in front of his chair, taking his hands in hers. I am not saying you made a mistake. I am saying that maybe it is okay to admit that this is not what you wanted, that you can honor your father's legacy without sacrificing your own happiness. Ian looked down at her, his eyes intense and searching. You barely know me. Why do you care? I do not know. And she really did not. It made no sense to feel this connected to someone she had met less than 24 hours ago. But I do. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, reverent, and Willa felt like she could not breathe. You are dangerous. Why? Because you make me want things I cannot have. What things? Instead of answering, Ian pulled her up and kissed her. It was not a gentle kiss. It was desperate and hungry, like he had been holding back for too long and finally let go. Willa kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands tangling in his hair, her body pressing against his. He tasted like wine and want, and she never wanted it to end. Ian stood, pulling her with him, his hands spanning her waist. They stumbled toward the couch, never breaking the kiss, and then he was lowering her onto the cushions, his weight pressing her down in the most delicious way. Tell me to stop, he murmured against her lips. Tell me this is a bad idea. It is a terrible idea. Willa pulled him back down. Do not stop. They made love on the couch in front of the fire, the storm raging outside, the rest of the world forgotten. It was fierce and tender and absolutely perfect, and when it was over, Ian held her close, his heart hammering against her ear. Stay with me tonight, he whispered. In my bed. I do not want you to be alone. Okay. They moved to his room eventually, curling up together under the heavy blankets. Ian's arms were around her, her head on his chest, and Willa felt safer than she had in years. This man, this near stranger, made her feel seen in a way nobody else ever had. I do not know what this is, Ian said into the darkness, but I do not want it to end when the storm does. Neither do I. I live in New York. You live in Colorado. The logistics are impossible. We will figure it out. Willa pressed a kiss to his chest. If we want to, we will figure it out. I want to. His arms tightened around her. God help me, I really want to. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, while the storm raged on. The next day brought a different kind of intensity. They could not keep their hands off each other, stealing kisses in the kitchen, making love in the afternoon light filtering through the bedroom windows. But they also talked, really talked, sharing stories and fears and dreams they had never told anyone else. Ian told her about the pressure of running a company he had never wanted, about the board members who questioned every decision, about the nights he could not sleep because he was terrified of failing. Willa told him about her own fears, about feeling like she was not good enough, about watching all her friends get married and have babies while she was still coordinating other people's happiness. You are enough, Ian said fiercely. More than enough. Anyone who cannot see that is an idiot. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you are kind and strong and you laugh at my terrible jokes. I know you looked at a stranger's pain and wanted to fix it. I know you make me feel things I thought I had forgotten how to feel." He cupped her face in his hands. "I know that meeting you might be the best thing that has happened to me in years." Willa's eyes filled with tears. "This is crazy. We have known each other for 2 days. I know. We live in different states. I know. Your life is so different from mine. You are a CEO. I plan weddings. I do not care." Ian kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "I do not care about any of it. All I care about is that I met you in the middle of a storm and now I cannot imagine going back to my life without you in it." "What are you saying?" "I am saying I am falling for you, Willa Osborne. Fast and hard and completely. And I think you might be falling for me too." She was. God help her, she absolutely was. "This is insane." "Probably. But the best things usually are." On the 3rd day, the storm finally broke. The snow stopped falling, the sun came out, and the world outside transformed into a glittering winter wonderland. It was beautiful and terrible because it meant their time together was ending. They heard the plow coming before they saw it, the rumble of the engine and the scrape of metal on asphalt. Ian went outside to flag it down while Willa packed her things, her heart heavy. Her car was buried under snow, but Ian arranged for a tow truck to come get it. He also called his assistant and had her book Willa a rental car, which showed up an hour later, delivered by a driver who did not ask questions. "You did not have to do that," Willa said as Ian walked her to the rental. "Yes, I did. Your car is not drivable and you need to get home." He pulled her close. "This is not goodbye, you know that, right?" "I do not know what this is." "It is the beginning." Ian kissed her slow and deep. "I am coming to see you next week. I will fly into Denver and drive to Glenwood Springs. We will have dinner and you can show me your apartment and introduce me to your friends. And we will figure this out one step at a time. You are serious. Completely serious. I am not letting you go, Willa. I cannot." He rested his forehead against hers. "You stormed into my life literally and changed everything. I was drowning and you pulled me out. That means something." "It means everything," she whispered. "Then trust me. Trust this. We will make it work." Willa drove away with tears streaming down her face, watching Ian grow smaller in the rearview mirror until the mountain road curved and he disappeared from view. Her phone signal returned halfway down the mountain, and it immediately started buzzing with missed calls and messages. Her boss frantic, the bride panicking, her friends worried she would deal with all of it. But first, she pulled over at a scenic overlook and just breathed, looking out at the mountains where she had spent 3 days that changed her life. Ian was true to his word. He called her that night, and they talked for 3 hours about everything and nothing. He called again the next morning before a meeting. He texted her throughout the day, funny observations and random thoughts that made her smile. A week later, he showed up at her apartment with flowers and that almost smile that made her heart race. "You came," she said, unable to hide her joy. "I told you I would." Ian pulled her into his arms. "I keep my promises." He stayed for the weekend and it was perfect. They explored Glenwood Springs, hiked in the snow, ate at the local diner where Willa knew everyone. Ian charmed her friends, endured their teasing, and held her hand like he never wanted to let go. On Sunday night, lying in her bed with her tucked against his side, Ian said, "I made a decision about the merger." Willa propped herself up to look at him. "What did you decide?" "I am going through with it, but I negotiated better terms. More severance packages, job placement assistance, extended benefits. It is still going to be hard for a lot of people, but we are going to do everything we can to help them transition." He met her eyes. "You were right. I had to trust my gut and do what was right, even if it was not easy." I am proud of you. I could not have done it without you. You reminded me that caring is not weakness, that being human is actually my greatest strength, not something to hide. Ian pulled her down for a kiss. Thank you. For what? For getting stuck in that storm, for knocking on my door, for seeing me when I could not see myself. The distance was hard. Ian was in New York more often than not, and Willa's job kept her in Colorado, but they made it work. He flew out every other weekend, and she used her vacation days to visit him in the city. They talked every day, sometimes for hours, sharing their lives across time zones and miles. 3 months in, Ian showed up at her apartment on a Tuesday afternoon, which was strange because he was supposed to be in meetings all week. "What are you doing here?" Willa asked, thrilled but confused. "I have a proposition for you." Ian walked past her into the apartment. "Hear me out before you say no." "Okay." The company is opening a new division focused on corporate events and employee engagement. We need someone to run it, someone who understands how to create experiences that matter. Someone organized and creative and good with people. He turned to face her. "I want it to be you." Willa stared at him. "You want me to work for your company?" "Yes. The position is based in Denver, so you would not have to move far. The pay is significantly better than what you are making now, and you would have a team working under you. Full benefits, stock options, everything." Ian took her hands. "But more than that, it would mean we are in the same state. I can move the company headquarters to Denver, or at least spend most of my time there. We could actually be together, Willa, really together. You would move your company for me. I would do a lot more than that for you." He squeezed her hands. "I love you. I have loved you since you showed up at my door half frozen and stubborn and brave. And I do not want to do this long-distance thing anymore. I want to wake up with you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build a life with you." Willa's heart was in her throat. "Ian, you do not have to answer right now. Think about it. Take all the time you need." He kissed her forehead. "But know that I am all in. Whatever you decide, I am with you." She did not need time. She knew her answer the moment he asked. "Yes. Yes. Yes to the job. Yes to you moving. Yes to building a life together." Willa threw her arms around his neck. "Yes to all of it." Ian's smile was incandescent. He kissed her until they were both breathless, until the rest of the world faded away and there was only them. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I have loved you since you let me into your cabin and made me soup. That was the soup. I should cook more often." "Shut up and kiss me." He did, and it felt like coming home. 6 months later, Willa was running the new events division with a competence that impressed even Ian. She had taken to the corporate world like she was born for it, bringing her creativity and warmth to a company that had been all business. Employee engagement was up, morale was higher, and the events she planned became the stuff of legend. Ian moved the company headquarters to Denver, shocking the business world but not caring about their opinions. He and Willa bought a house together in the mountains, not far from the cabin where they had met. They spent their weekends there, cooking together and making love by the fire and planning a future that looked nothing like either of them had imagined, but was perfect anyway. On the anniversary of the storm, Ian took her back to the cabin. It was spring now, the world green and alive, but Willa could still remember the terror of that drive, the relief of finding shelter, the miracle of finding him. "I have something for you," Ian said as they stood on the porch, looking out at the mountains. "You did not have to get me anything." "Yes, I did." He pulled a small box from his pocket and dropped to one knee. Willa's hands flew to her mouth. "Ian, a year ago, a storm brought you into my life and changed everything. You made me believe in love again, in happiness, in the possibility of building something real. You are my home, Willa, my safe harbor, my everything." He opened the box, revealing a ring that caught the light and sparkled like captured stars. "Marry me. Build a life with me. Storm into forever with me." "Yes," she sobbed, dropping to her knees beside him. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and then they were kissing and crying and laughing all at once. The mountains stretched out around them, witness to their joy, and Willa thought about how funny life was. How one wrong turn, one desperate decision, one knock on a stranger's door could change everything. They got married 6 months later in a ceremony at Snowridge Resort, the same place where Willa used to coordinate other people's happiness. Now she was creating her own, standing in front of family and friends and promising forever to the man who had saved her from more than just a storm. Ian's sister was her maid of honor, because the two women had bonded instantly over their shared determination to make Ian take better care of himself. Willa's brothers gave her away, both of them crying like babies and not caring who saw. Ian's best man was his oldest friend from college, who gave a speech about how he had never seen Ian this happy and how Willa was a miracle worker. "I knew," Ian whispered as they danced their first dance as husband and wife. "The moment you walked through that door, some part of me knew." "Knew what?" "That you were going to be the most important person in my life, that everything was about to change." Willa pressed closer, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "The storm brought us together." "No." Ian tilted her face up to meet his eyes. "The storm just set the stage. We brought us together. We chose this every day through all the hard parts and the distance and the doubt. That was us." He was right. The storm had been the catalyst, but love had been the choice. Every day they chose each other. Every day they built their forever, one moment at a time. 2 years later, Willa stood in the kitchen of their mountain house, her hand resting on her very pregnant belly, watching Ian build a crib in the nursery. He had taken up woodworking in his spare time, creating beautiful furniture with his own hands, and the crib was his masterpiece. "You are going to spoil this baby," she called out. "That is the plan." Ian emerged from the nursery, sawdust in his hair, and kissed her soundly. "How are you feeling?" "Like I am carrying a bowling ball. How do you think I am feeling?" "Beautiful. You look beautiful." His hand joined hers on her belly, and they both felt the baby kick. "Hello in there. This is your dad. I cannot wait to meet you." Willa's eyes filled with happy tears, which happened approximately 80 times a day now thanks to pregnancy hormones. "You are going to be such a good father." "I am going to try. That is all any of us can do." Ian knelt down, speaking directly to her belly. "Your mom is the bravest person I know. She drove through a blizzard, knocked on a stranger's door, and changed my whole world. So you are already starting with excellent genetics. You are ridiculous. You love me anyway." "I really do." Their daughter, Emma Rose Fletcher, was born 3 weeks later during another snowstorm. It was gentler this time, the kind that made everything look like a snow globe instead of a natural disaster. Ian was beside Willa through every moment of labor, holding her hand and telling her she was strong and that he loved her. When the nurse placed Emma in Willa's arms, tiny and perfect and already looking like her father, Willa felt her heart expand in a way she had not known was possible. "She is perfect," Ian whispered, tears streaming down his face unashamedly. "You are both perfect." They brought Emma home to the mountain house, and their life rearranged itself around this new tiny person. Ian scaled back his hours at the company, promoting people he trusted and learning to delegate, so he could be home more. Willa took maternity leave and fell into the rhythm of motherhood with the same grace she brought to everything else. On Emma's first birthday, they threw a party at the mountain house. Both their families came, along with friends from Denver and New York, and the house was full of laughter and love and chaos. Ian grilled hamburgers while Willa cut the cake, and Emma smashed her piece all over her face and everyone else's. Later, after everyone had gone home and Emma was asleep, Ian and Willa sat on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, looking at the stars. "Happy?" Ian asked, deliriously. Willa snuggled closer. I did not know I could be this happy. I did not think it was possible." He kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for knocking on my door that night. Thank you for letting me in." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from truly knowing another person. From choosing them every day through storms and sunshine, through hard times and joy. From building a life together, piece by piece, moment by moment. The storm that brought them together was long past, but its gift remained. A love that had weathered everything and come out stronger. A partnership built on trust and laughter and the determination to choose each other always. And as Ian held Willa close under the stars, both of them listening to their daughter breathe through the baby monitor, he thought about fate and choice, and how sometimes the universe conspires to give you exactly what you need when you need it most. He had gone to the cabin to hide from his life, and instead, he had found his reason for living, not bad for a snowstorm. 5 years later, Ian stood in the backyard of their mountain house, watching Emma play in the sandbox he had built while Willa rocked their son, Jack, who was just 6 months old. The company was thriving under the new structure he had implemented. The events division Willa had started had become one of their most successful branches, and life was full in the best possible way. "Daddy, come play," Emma called out, her dark hair flying as she ran toward him. Ian scooped her up, spinning her around until she shrieked with laughter. "What are we playing?" "We are building a castle for the princess to live in." "Well, that is very important work. We should get started right away." He settled into the sandbox with his daughter, and Willa came to sit beside them with Jack. The baby grabbed for his father's hand, and Ian led him, marveling at how small his fingers were, how perfect. "You know what I was thinking," Willa said. "What's that?" "We should take the kids to the cabin, show them where we met, tell them the story. They are a little young for the story, not all of it, just the part about how Daddy saved Mommy from a snowstorm. I think it was mutual saving." Ian looked at his wife, this woman who had crashed into his life and remade it completely. "But sure, let's go to the cabin, show them where it all started." So they did. They packed up the car and drove to the cabin, Emma chattering excitedly about the snow while Jack slept in his car seat. The cabin looked exactly the same, welcoming and solid, a place out of time. Ian unlocked the door and carried their bags inside while Willa got the kids. The fireplace was cold, but he would get it going soon. Everything smelled like pine and memories. "This is where you met?" Emma asked, looking around with wide eyes. "This is where we met." Willa knelt down beside her daughter. There was a big snowstorm and Mommy's car stopped working, so she knocked on the door and Daddy let her in. He kept her safe and warm until the storm passed. Like a prince saving a princess. Ian laughed. "Something like that, sweetheart, although your mom saved me right back. From what? From forgetting what matters most." He pulled Willa close, kissing her temple. "She reminded me that the best things in life are not things at all. They are the people you love and the moments you share with them." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer, running off to explore the cabin with the confidence of a child who knew she was loved and safe. Willa leaned into Ian's embrace, both of them watching their children, their miracle babies who existed because of a storm and a choice and a love that refused to be ignored. "You ever wonder what would have happened if I had driven past?" Willa asked quietly. "If I had not seen the cabin or had been too scared to knock," every day, and every day I am grateful you were brave enough to ask a stranger for help." Ian turned her to face him. "You are the bravest person I know, Willa Fletcher. You always have been. I love you. I love you too. More than anything." They spent the weekend at the cabin, building snowmen with Emma and teaching her how to make hot chocolate while Jack watched from his bouncer, waving his arms and gurgling happily. Ian made his famous soup, and Willa laughed at how Emma proclaimed it was the best thing she had ever eaten. On their last night, after the kids were asleep, Ian and Willa sat by the fire just like they had that first night. The whiskey was the same, the blanket was the same, but everything else had changed. They had changed, grown together, built something neither of them had imagined but both cherished more than words could express. "Thank you," Ian said suddenly. "For what?" "For getting stuck in that storm. For knocking on my door, for choosing me every day since." He took her hand, running his thumb over her wedding ring. "For giving me a life I actually want to live, right back at you." Willa kissed him softly. "We are quite the team, the best team." Outside, snow began to fall again, soft and gentle, blanketing the world in white. But inside the cabin, everything was warm and safe and perfect. A family built from a storm, thriving in its aftermath, proving that sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected moments. Ian Fletcher had learned to build things with his hands, to trust his heart, to believe in love. Willa Osborne had learned that she was enough, that her strength was not a burden, that happiness was not just something she coordinated for others. Together, they had learned that home was not a place but a person. That love was a choice you made every single day. That storms could destroy, but they could also bring together two people who needed each other more than they knew. And as they sat by the fire in the cabin where it all began, surrounded by the evidence of the life they had built, neither of them would change a single thing. Not the storm, not the fear, not the uncertainty. Because it had all led them here, to this moment, to this family, to this forever. The storm had brought them together, but love had made them stay. And that, they both knew, was the real miracle. Not the meeting, but the choosing. Not the spark, but the fire they had built together and tended carefully, day after day, year after year. Their forever had started with a knock on a door during a blizzard. But it continued because they woke up every morning and decided together that this was what they wanted. This life, this love, this family. And really, what more could anyone ask for?